Mr. Feels podcast, where we talk about anything and everything mental health related. I'm your host, Tyler May.
And I'm your other host, Laura Benson.
And this week we have my friend Cass, who is actually in LA and is a makeup artist, which is pretty rad. How's it going, Cass?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic today. I just flew in from San Francisco last night and got a chance to hang out with the Patreon people, which is a great segue into a plug to support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Mr. Feels. Yeah. Cass, do you want to just briefly tell people kind of what you've dealt with mentally broadly, and then we'll kind of go into your journey?
Sure. This is like a meeting. So, hey, I'm Cass. I knew I had anxiety at an early age, but besides that, I struggle with depression and anxiety due to a family member of mine passing away.
Can I ask when that was? How old were you?
I was 16, and that was back in 2011.
Wow. Okay. So you've had time to process it a little bit, enough to where you're good to speak on it.
Right.
Yeah, sweet. For some reason, when I came out of my thing, all I wanted to do is talk about it, and some other people react in the exact opposite way. Kind of how was it for you kind of in the beginning dealing with that, or do you want to just take us through your story of dealing with mental health?
Yeah. So the family member that passed away was my mother. And, that's a huge effect on somebody. I was very close to her. And it was so weird, because I'm pretty self-aware, and I could see it had turned me completely inside out. I did not recognize myself, and I had no life to me anymore, and I didn't want to do anything. And it tore me in two, honestly.
And how long did that last? Do you remember?
Oh my God. I'm honestly going to say 5 years.
Wow. Was it mostly depression or anxiety, do you think?
It was a combination of both, because there were so many things I wanted to do. I was in high school, and I was 19, 20, and I wanted to go out with friends and have a good time. But my depression, anxiety just stopped me. I was no, if I go out, maybe I don't want to, or I can't do it. There was no explanation why, I just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. How was dealing with that when you were in high school and having kids around you, knowing that your mom had passed away, and just having to deal with multiple dynamics all at once?
I will say, when your family member passed away and you're in high school, they reach out to you, but it's not in a sort of sense. It is genuine, but it's not in a sort of sense where it's hey, I want to genuinely be your friend and be there for you. It was oh, if you need someone, I'm there for you. Mm-hmm. And that kind of made me feel even more anxious, because I was are these people here for me or not? Do they want to be my friend or not? So it was just a whole lot of confusion. And honestly, it didn't help. It made me feel worse.
Yeah, I've been, for those who don't know, I went back to school and I'm trying to get a counseling degree. And that was actually one of the things that one of my professors said was one of the worst things that you can say is just I'm here for you if you need anything, or if you need help with anything.
Don't say it.
Yeah, it's just it sounds it sounds so meaningful and a good thing to say, but it's much better to just start being there for somebody. And especially if they're going through severe depression, and you've noticed that they've kind of started to isolate themselves. I was talking to one friend who was asking me for a little advice in dealing with one of his friends with depression, and just asking what's the best ways that I can kind of help him or be a good friend. And honestly, trying to insert yourself in their lives, not in a pushy way, but in a persistent way of just hey, is it cool if I come over? Rather than asking, do you want to hang out? You can say, I think I want to come over and just hang out, if that's okay, if that's good. Yeah. So something more direct, and you have a plan, and it's not such a big deal for people to get out and do. What do you think would be good for some people to know, and being able to be a good friend to somebody dealing with that?
Definitely, shooting those texts hey, like exactly what you said, coming to them is a lot easier than being do you want to go here? Because then it's oh my God, I have to literally, because, self-care is a thing as well. I'll have to get dressed, and I'll have to do this, and I'll have to put on my smile and all that. And what if I'm exhausted? So it's good for someone who does want to come over instead, so you can just relax with that person because it's more intimate and it shows that they just want to see you. They don't want to like, be with you in like a really loud environment, or sending a text as well, like, just like little stuff, like not even like, hey, how are you? Like sending them a meme, or like being like, this made me think of you. Like just like making it be known in subtle ways that you care about them and you enjoy talking to them. So they would want to open up to you and be like, oh, this person cares about me. If I wasn't feeling well, I could open up about it.
That's something I imagine very few 16 and 17-year-olds have the skill set, unless they've experienced grief in their own personal lives. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's a very mature way of showing up for someone, that I feel like I've kind of learned in my late 20s. So I'm just curious, because you were so young, were there any resources or anything from your school, from like the counseling department or your teachers or your broader community that helped you get through? Or were you just kind of in the middle of this high school, intense time and like looking for connection with people and processing all this grief?
My high school actually didn't offer any counseling to me or my twin sister. But my younger sisters who were in middle school, they had gotten counseling. So they would go. Yeah.
And this is in a public school? Wow.
They did not offer that.
Jeez.
So.
Oh, is that because you were in Florida, you think?
I don't know. Maybe they care more about the alligators than us, but.
Yeah.
But, again, with kids being kids and not knowing how to properly be there, I think that made it like 10 times harder. And, my dad always worked as well. So he he was like there for us, but he couldn't like emotionally be there for us because my dad worked far away. So that was kind of hard as well. So I think the best way that helped me hang on and helped me like release all that tension was like a few things. My dog, love of my life, Leah, 10 years old, my Chihuahua, who I love so much. And she hasn't come out here to live with me yet because I see her in December and then I'm going to pick her up. But she helped me so much. Like I can't imagine recovering or how I would have recovered those first few years, of people being young and I was young, like without her. And even though
you say that and it reminds me of just like, it makes me think literally a dog is a better friend than most of like your friends. Like it does all that you want to. Like it stays with, like it cuddles with you. It's always there. It doesn't talk. It doesn't like argue with, it might argue with you a little bit.
Dude, it's real. Pet therapy is a real thing.
Dude, I'm so sad that I don't have a dog right now.
It was so wonderful. Like I honestly, again, I would not know what I would have done without her, because my best friend at the time, we were young. She had just gotten a boyfriend, and I understand now that she probably didn't know how to emotionally be there for me, but she would like leave me to go hang out with her boyfriend, or like when I would go over her house to try and spend time with her to heal, she would invite her boyfriend over and leave me in the front room. And I was just like, well, I don't want to be friends with someone like that. So me being rash as I was and grieving as I was, I ended up getting rid of her, because I would rather have no friends than have a bad friend, because I had my dog and my sisters, and while we tried to figure this all out, I just thought it would be better. But she didn't take that well and tried to isolate me from other friends, saying I was a bad friend. But luckily they were like, you're crazy. She's grieving. Like, how could you do that?
Do you think that was a good decision to kind of get her out of your life for the most part?
Yeah, because like it was probably too much for her to handle at the time anyway. So even though I was pretty rash about it, I think it was a good decision for both of us.
Yeah, because all like high school kids want to do is just like go out and hang
fun.
out.
Yeah,
they don't want to sit around and talk about feelings for the most part.
And she didn't have to grow up if she didn't want to. So I understand that.
Yeah. And what were the other things that helped you the most?
Internet friends. I was huge. I love to play games. I've always been an avid like Nintendo player, and I play Pokemon. I do like competitive battling, and people that I had met from YouTube and on like gaming forums.
You played Pokemon competitively?
Yeah, I still do.
Yes, dude. Oh
I
man,
just not that much now because I just moved in and I'm working on stuff. But
that is the coolest
generally,
fact I've
yes.
ever heard about you. Oh man, I
Oh my
remember
God.
there was one guy that was my brother's friend who I was just meeting, and I heard that he played Pokemon competitively, and he lost by like one place to go to like some tournament in Japan, and I looked up to him like an idol.
I mean, he is.
All right, I'll stop cutting you off, but I will get excited about dogs and Pokemon, so I can't help myself.
Yeah, that was literally the list of things that helped me. Internet friends, Pokemon, dogs.
Yeah.
And honestly, that time alone, like I isolated myself, and I don't recommend that. But I had my sisters and my animal and my online friends, and that kind of helped me take a step back and look at myself and like figure everything out and be like, okay, I feel this way because, and I was able to look at that and just like take the time. But sometimes, like when I was just thrown into things, like when I had graduated high school, I had started going to a community college because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, and I didn't really want to go there. My dad was just like, you should start just so you have something. And I was like, I'm not really ready. I'm still freaking out because this was like my mom, she passed away the middle of my junior year, and then I went back. I was homeschooled for a little bit.
Afterwards,
for like
or before?
So like my 10th grade year and then half of my 11th grade year. My dad was like, you have to go back to school because there's no one, to help you now. And I think it would just be best, to have support of your classmates and stuff. And I was like, I mean, I'll do it, but so I had went and I went to college, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm thrown into all these things, and now I feel like I don't know myself, and I'm not choosing what I want to do. So that just made me feel even worse and unable to work on me and work on my feelings. I felt very controlled, but that wasn't my dad's intention. So that was just, me being an angsty teen.
And is it just you and your sister?
I actually have 4 sisters.
Oh man.
And we all went through this in different ways. So it's really interesting.
Dude, explain that. I want to hear that. I get way too excited about people's grief. I feel horrible.
Yeah.
But like, I think I just get more excited to like hear people talking about these things, because it's something that like we just don't talk about. And we say this all the time. Like the biggest reason we're starting this podcast and keeping it going is because people just don't talk about this, which perpetuates the problem. It only makes it so people don't want to speak out or don't want to.
It really does. It's so sad because grieving, it literally does. It'll like turn you into a different person. Like you just become, one day you're blue, the next day you're green. Like it's just, you're just brand new.
So how did all of your family kind of go through that differently?
My dad was working, so I don't really know what he did to get over that, but my dad's happily married now, and he's good. But my twin sister, her general thing was she really liked to clean. She thought that cleaning would solve most of her problems.
That would be great to have a sibling that was their main problem.
So she came off as very bossy.
Okay.
Those few years, because she'd be like, I need to clean this, or I need to clean that, and get out of the way, because that was her way of, trying to take control of everything, because, when losing your mom, you can't control that. So that was just her trying to take life by the horns and, just have that to take steps into getting better. And she's definitely not where she used to be, but because of the cleaning and because of the taking control and doing what she wants and like feeling free with she went to not community college. She went to college. She went to Florida State University, and she has like a little student loan and stuff. So after graduating, she worked, but she felt really stressed because of the student loan, and that just made her kind of crabby again, because she was like, how am I supposed to do what I want with this giant loan? But now she's kind of taking it easy, and her favorite thing is, again, cleaning, and now she really enjoys pampering herself. So it's like just buying things for yourself and making yourself like feel better. It makes her feel like, again, in control, and just being happy, like finding that happiness and finding like what you like. Because when you're depressed, you just delete yourself. You don't know what you like. You don't know what you like to do. You So just, feeling alive and doing those things, like buying yourself that new swimsuit or getting that cooler, that new bedspread, whatever you want, like that, for her, that works. And it's like so funny and it's so cute, but it works for her.
Wow.
And how about your other sisters?
My youngest sister, she found a family in our neighborhood that she became really good friends with because the one girl was in her class. So she would go over there, and because they had like a full family, she felt a part of their family. So that helped her heal. Wow. Because she was the youngest. She was about like 9 or 10 when my mom passed away. So I kind of helped her fill that void and make her feel like, like she had a life again. Didn't make her feel so upset. So that was wonderful. And we always encouraged her to go over there. And she still goes over there. And because of that, she found like a boyfriend and now she's happy, whatever.
Whatever, happiness. What's that?
She found it. Yay.
It was just hiding like underneath the covers or something. Oh, there it is. Got it. All right, we're good.
My oldest sister, I don't know. She's been kind of like, I will say my oldest sister is pretty cool. Like she had really good friends. Like, she was in college when my mom passed away. So she had these, luckily for her, she had good friends from high school she was actually like emotionally connected with. So they were definitely there for her. And she would call them and talk to them about it because she was much like my mom, where they both just love to talk on the phone and talk about things, which is like so funny. But, and she was able to heal that way by, talking to someone about it. None of us were really, except for my younger sisters, we didn't get to go to therapy, and my dad never really talked about like depression medication options because one, it was a grieving thing, and two, when you're away and you work far away, how are you supposed to know how your kids are? Yeah. And especially we can't tell you how we are. Mm-hmm. We're kids.
Right. Were you the only one that kind of responded with isolation and depression?
Yeah, because I was really used to being by myself because of homeschooling, so I had gone back to that. And it's just so like on the scale of being extroverted and introverted, I'm smack in the middle. So when I thought of how like hanging out with people makes me feel afterwards sometimes so drained, that would like kind of trigger how I felt when I felt depressed. So I would be like, no, I don't want to like go out and see anybody because then I'll just feel worse. And then like I'll like just break into like 10,000 pieces. And how am I supposed to put myself back together when I don't have the strength? So I would just stay where I was.
Yeah. You said something that made me think so much. You're like, when you're depressed, you kind of delete yourself. Like that wording was like so good because you literally like get rid of almost the essence of yourself and your personality. Mm-hmm. You don't even really become like a different person. You just become like personless.
An outline. Yeah, you're just an outline of yourself.
Dang, are you a poet?
No, I've just had a lot of time to think.
That's so cool to think about it that way, man.
So you said that, kind of your deep grieving state and depression lasted about 5 years. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, as you got older, if you did end up seeking counseling or what tools you developed, and kind of how you've processed all of that as you've gotten older, because it's been a few years.
The one thing that helped me start it is I got control of my life. I put my foot down and told my dad what I wanted to do. And I found out that no, I did not want to go to school to be an animator or whatever I picked. I wanted to be a makeup artist. So like that first step into being like, oh, well, I found out what I wanted to do. And that made me feel like, it colored me in a little more. It made me feel like I was living again. I had better friends to talk to this about. And I also had a few friends who their parents had also passed away or someone close to them. So I was able to talk about it with them. And I talked to other people who had gone through different options of like, hey, I have depression too, but I like went on medication, or I didn't go on medication. Or I sought counseling, but what kind of like helped distract me, made me feel better is when I started going to school for what I wanted to do. So I went to makeup school. It was a 6 months course for 3 certifications, and I just felt like I had a family there as well. So again, about the family thing. And there were such supportive people. Like when your family falls apart, you don't have that support anymore. You don't feel like you're anything, or you are anything, and you don't have anything. They made me feel like I was someone that they cared about and they believed in me. And that really, it was like almost like seeing a psychiatrist without seeing a psychiatrist. That like really helped like step me up a few stages from where I was in terms of with my depression. But afterwards, the 6 months was over. Just again, finding like my purpose and finding what I wanted to do really helped motivate me to go outside and meet people and be social again. Because I grew up being a very talkative, social person. So when I wasn't like that, it was weird, because normally people knew me. Everybody knew me because I love people so much. And finding this job, being a makeup artist, I got to meet people all the time because, I'm in their face all the time. And it just made me feel so good.
Literally.
Yeah. Like literally in their face all the time.
Did you?
And it almost felt like a safety net.
Yeah. Did you feel like you could talk about most anything when you were at makeup school with those people?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Because most of the time when you go to makeup school, you're either what's called a beauty school dropout because you don't know what you want to do, or 2, you're just really cool and you love art and you want to do this. And that's the type of person I am. So I just connected really well with these people.
How was it with your internet friends? Can you kind of talk about like more of that in high school, and then they like stick around throughout? Because one of the like I was depressed all throughout middle school and high school, and I didn't really know what depression was. But the one thing that like kept me having any social interaction and not 100% isolating myself was having internet friends that we'd talk all the time and have group chats and I made a video every week with like 7 other friends, like on a YouTube channel from when I was 16 to like 18 and a half. And like that was like some months I would go without hanging out with literally anybody, but like I always had my internet friends. I'm curious to see like how similar and like how your internet friends kind of affected you.
So some of my internet friends were older, so they were able to emotionally be there for me.
Yeah.
I started out like my depths of the internet. I started out by being like a digital artist. So I would take my tablet and I would draw, and I would go on all these websites where you could draw live with people, and like on DeviantArt, I became friends with people because of that, and they were all a little older than me, and they were just the coolest people ever. And they would be like, because you would sit there with them on Skype and you would draw live and like laugh about it because you're like, oh my God, look what I drew, ha ha, and you would just have the best time and bond with these people. So you just like were like, I want to hang out with these people more than I want to hang out with these fuds in high school, like they were so cool to me. I looked up to them so much. Their art was so good, and they were just so nice, and they cared about me. So it was nice to have that comfort from, the chair, or if I sat on the bed of like, my own home.
Yeah.
But in terms of YouTube, I had befriended a few people because of Facebook. So me and a few YouTube people, we would go on Skype every like Friday or Saturday and do a call.
Yes.
And we would just talk about like nerd stuff and just like have such a good time to talk about. Because like I loved YouTube, and I was like, oh, did you guys see this video? And that's what you would talk about back in like 2009, 2010.
Those are the days.
But I'd known them priorly before my mom died. So like afterwards they were all like there for me, and like it was just super cool. I don't know if you guys know any of them. Robbie, he used to go by Robbie Epic Sauce.
I don't think I knew that one.
He's so funny. He was this cool scene kid. He's still a scene kid now, but like I love
Once
him.
a scene
He was
kid,
like
always
one
a
of my
scene kid.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh man.
Do you think that there was something about interacting with people online that made it easier for you to be open and vulnerable? Like, I know a lot of people, that have experienced depression, and like you get that social anxiety, and you did touch upon this a little bit of not being able to quite motivate yourself to get up and go out somewhere. But even if you just have somebody coming over and spending time with you, and, you know, at least for me, like, it can be so much easier to interact with somebody in the digital space than face to face sometimes if you're feeling a lot of pain, because it just is. And I'm wondering if it felt that way for you very markedly, or
like,
if it was
for
more
sure
that you had shared. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, when you're exposing yourself to a friend you have through the computer, you don't have to, you know, put that face on, or like have to deal with like their sudden reaction of what you said, because it's through a computer. So it was almost like a safety guard. It was a lot easier to talk about it because of that. But again, that's a good method to start with. But I really hope that, you know, people don't stay doing that, are able to tell people how they feel without like the computer in the way.
Yeah, there's no substitution for true connection. But I imagine as a 16-year-old, you know, I mean, it's hard to just exist as a 16-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, if you have all these other layers on top of that you're dealing with, that, that's all. I see that as helpful.
Was that drawing, live drawing, was that like websites that would allow you to do that? Or did you just meet people on TV?
So one of them was called Nico's Paint Chat, and you would go on there and you could draw
Nico.
anything. Yeah, like there was all these different rooms, and like people would just talk in the little chat below, and it was just so fun to watch people draw and like compliment them, and they would compliment you. It's like, you know, when you're in kindergarten, you go, "Want to be friends?" And you're like, "Yeah." It was like just like that.
I just want to let everybody know that on this Skype calls, Cass is using a phone, and every time she impersonates somebody, she like zooms up really close to their face, like, "Want to be friends?" And then he goes back out normal. It's so great. But yeah, that gave me an idea. I want to, all right, nobody steal this idea, because I can start my own tech startup in San Francisco about this. Just like starting like a website where you can do that, like creatives can like an Omegle for like people who are editing like videos or like photos at the same time, right? So like you just like mix and match with somebody who you're just talking with every here now with while you're editing.
Dude, yeah. And they could be like, oh yeah, no, change that a little more blue or a little more green, you know? Like, oh my God, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and then if they give crappy advice, you just like hit next and you got a new person. Dude, I want to do that, because I feel like, because freelancing and doing that type of work is pretty lonely, and you can get pretty used to like being home, or if you're a little bit more progressive and not a complete introvert isolator person, going to coffee shops to do it. But yeah, man,
the second opinion is great too. Like
exactly.
All second opinions, third opinions are just awesome. I love hearing the way, because everyone's mind works differently. And then like when you like stare at your screen all day and you're like, I can't tell if this looks good anymore because I'm tired of the way I think. I want to hear what someone else thinks.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna somebody start that, and then give me like 15%, and I'll let you just go with that and take it. But yeah, internet friends were key. I kind of want to. So you mentioned the few things that like had helped you the most, and a good way to be a good friend is just like sending texts pretty frequently.
One
of you even mentioned saying that like sending something as simple as like a meme can like make the world of difference, and saying the words like, "This made me think of you." I don't remember if I've talked about this like on the podcast, even in the bipolar episode that was just about Laura and I's stories, but like a text message essentially was the reason why I decided to like keep living, because I had a date to commit suicide essentially. And 2 days prior to that, I had a friend text me and just say, "Hey, going to a John Foreman concert made me think of you." I'm like, that's all it said. And that's all it took for like my mind to just click. It's like, this is obviously the sign from God that like I asked for. And I just went to the concert and like had a life-changing concert, and it was a great concert. But like the reason why that happened and was something as little as a text saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about you."
It's so spooky though, isn't it? I had something similar happen to me. About like 4 months after my mom had passed away, my dad thought it was a good idea that we all go on a cruise. So that was feeling pretty low.
The sad boat.
And yeah, when you have all these sisters and like we're all young, we can be pretty mean to each other.
Yeah.
But I was always really sensitive, and even at my state, I took it very personal. So I walked out to the side of the boat, and I looked out into the water, and I was by myself because my sisters had kicked me away because they were all like making fun of me. You know how sisters do.
Yeah.
It's just harmless, but I took full offense to it. And I was like, if no one comes to talk to me within the next 20 seconds, I'm going to jump off. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I look really casual because I did not want anyone to like suspect. So I'm just chilling, and I'm serious. So the whole side of this boat, there was nobody. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden this child runs to me and was like, do you want to be friends with me? And I was like,
that's the most adorable.
like, I was just so like, I could not breathe for a second. I was like, what? Like, I still to this day don't know how that happened, but I didn't jump off the boat because some little child wanted to talk to me about Sonic the Hedgehog, and I was here for it.
Oh man, Sonic the Hedgehog helped save it.
Gotta go fast. He ran, so I was like, oh. That's what he was thinking. Spooky.
Laura, ask a question. I can't breathe for a second.
Sure. So basically, we've decided that Pokemon and Sonic the Hedgehog save lives. Is what
That's right. They do.
PSA. All right, we're gonna start using all of our Patreon money to like run ads about Pokemon and Sonic the Hedgehog save lives.
I will advocate this.
Right. This isn't the best segue necessarily, but I do want to ask a little bit about your current lifestyle and how you whether depression and anxiety are still present for you now that you're working. And I also worked in film. I was a production assistant and production coordinator for a while, and so I know what those days are like. You're usually on set for 12 or 14 hours, just 6 or 7 days in a row sometimes. It can be really depleting for you, and if you're prone to depression and get exhausted and are stressed, everything can kind of pile up. So has that been something that's come up, or is it that you're so inspired by the work that you're doing that you actually aren't really experiencing those lows? I'm curious how that is present for you now.
It really depends on the production. Like my first big job was 3 months after I had graduated makeup school. I was invited to work on a Netflix show called Bloodline of season 2 and season 3. Nice. So during season 2, it was just the best. I got to assist because the makeup department head, she taught at my school, and because I had prior knowledge to art and I was a digital artist, she liked the way that I incorporated making my my looks to show the director and stuff like out of the computer. So she was like, "You are just so amazing, and I would really love for you to join us." So I was like, "Oh my God, you bet. I'm gonna join you." So I was like flipping my shit, like, yeah, after makeup school, everybody always has to go straight into retail, but not me, because I am worth something I've learned. Yay! Like, that made me feel so good. For that part, no. The days were really long, but they made me feel really important and special because they always like patted me on the back, basically, because I had designed a lot of tattoos for the show. So I got to do something special. So it made me feel like the days were tolerable then. And then during my break, I had gone to Buffer Festival for this was in 2015. And I did hair and makeup there. And of course, seeing all my friends again, I was fine, even though like long flight and first time out of the country alone. But on some things, not so much back in Florida, because I had I would go home if I didn't stay in Miami, where we were shooting in Key West. I had my dog, and I was able to be with her and like release all like my attention by petting her and like telling her how cute she is. But I think it's but it depends on the production, but especially now that I'm out here and I'm just long days. So this whole month, I had worked at a haunt called 17th Door near Anaheim. So I would do a production during the day, or I would do like a photo shoot, and then I would go down at like 5 o'clock, 4:30 when I could, and do haunt makeup for like until like 9 o'clock. So I would be airbrushing all these scary faces and dealing with all these people. So it really exhausted me. And finding a place to live out here and just being so worried that I wouldn't make it, like I couldn't be able to transition what I had out in Florida to out here. It was exhausting. I felt like I wasn't going to get anywhere the first 4 weeks. I couldn't find a place to live. I didn't have my car here yet. I wasn't finding steady work at first. So it was terrifying, and it brought back all those feelings. And I was like, no, please. I worked so hard, but it got better. I now have a lovely apartment. I have my car, have a stable gig, and I just talked about getting a second gig where I actually teach people how to do makeup and film. So I hope I get that. That'd be fun. But let's see. I think what brings me happiness is like seeing myself succeed. So I was feeling pretty bad, but then I got the news that I even saw it myself. This movie that I was makeup department head of called Chasing Titles. It has its own billboard on Sunset Boulevard right by the Laugh Factory. When I saw that, I just started crying. So I was like, oh my God, like I've been feeling so bad. And like, look, I did that. Like that's the makeup I did on that big ass billboard. It's still there. Like I was just like, it's whatever. Everything's like, it's fine. Like I'll survive. It'll be okay. Like again, being self-aware. Like, I just like, Cassandra, it's fine. And then following another week, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I was feeling, I'm like, when I feel tired, like overworked like that, just having no days off, especially here right now without my darling, my pet, I can be prone to be feeling pretty not well. And I'm just exhausted and I don't want to do anything or see anybody. I just want to see the bed, lay in the bed and not do anything. And, it frustrates me because I'm, 23 years old and I finally live in a place where most of my internet friends that I spoke to online, they all live here. I should be wanting to hang out with them and all that. So I try to fight it. I try to fight it off because, I should want to hang out with them and finally, do stuff with people because I'm young. But just right now, it can be a little bit of a challenge. But, October is a hell month for all makeup artists. So if you know a makeup artist and you're like, oh my God, you haven't hung out with me all month, please be aware that this is a really nice, busy month for us. Yeah, we get paid awesome because everyone needs Halloween makeup and everyone needs this and that. But don't yell at us for not being able to see you because we want to see you too. But, there's something called a slow season. We're going to be packing away our money when slow season starts.
When you're exhausted in those states and you still have to work, do you find yourself putting a mask on, if you will, to use the makeup?
Yeah. That was going to be my question too. What are your self-care
I'm glad
or
I got
coping
to
methods
ask it so I could insert
that
just
time?
that subtle pun in there. All right. Anyways.
A big one for me is honestly, this sounds really stupid, but taking a bath. Because you have that warm water surrounding you. It feels like a hug. It's very nice. Getting a lot of sleep. When I don't get a lot of sleep, I feel like, man, this is pointless. I just want to not exist. This is stupid. Sleeping, taking a bath. Make sure you're eating well because when I feel like when I don't feel well and I make myself a list of things I need to do so I can feel just a little bit better even if I'm exhausted. Eat well, actually eat, maybe communicate with people. So one of my other methods of coping is being a friend to someone because it makes me feel like I'm doing something good. Yeah. So I'll randomly text a friend hey, what's up? Or how are you? Or I'll send them the same thing haha, look at this. And then I'll segue it to so how are you? Let me be your ear. Let me listen to you.
Do you find that when you're wanting all of the not necessarily attention but just wanting somebody to talk to you and kind of help you cope with things that when you reach out to them essentially all you're doing is just doing what you wish other people would do for you?
Sometimes, but I'm very lucky to have a friend who will reach out to me most of the time.
Nice.
But like, other than that, yes and no. Just because, you know, people aren't always going to be available when you need them. And like, that's not their fault. You shouldn't punish them for it. But when they are, and they do, like, you know, make you feel special and stuff, that's like amazing. Like my best friend, her name's Olivia, and she's Olivia Marie on YouTube, and she's so great and so funny. And we kind of go through similar things together, where we just feel like sometimes when we're like depressed, we feel like underappreciated or like whatnot. But she's really good at that. She's so good at making people feel so special that I feel so privileged to have her as a friend here, especially when I'm all alone without my dog. Like, she really helps me like stay on track with my mental health, because again, she knows what it feels like.
Yeah. And with your job, do you see like yourself kind of taking on your job more as like an identity, because it's something that like you care so much about and you get passionate about it, that essentially becomes Cassandra?
I mean, at this point, it like already has. Like, it's all I freaking talk about besides video games, and people always want to talk to me about it. They're like, Cassandra, you're the makeup Google. Please help me. I want to know. And like, I'm happy that people want to talk to me and ask me those questions, because it helps. Like, to me, it helps me build friendships with people just by them like being able to ask me anything, so we could like, you know, get to be better friends and be like, oh, so hey, by the way, you found that lipstick. How are you?
Yeah. Are there any problems that kind of come with that, of like being so surrounded in one world kind of all the time?
Sometimes, because I will be honest, actors can set me off sometimes. Like sometimes when they're like, you get the diva, or you get like a method actor that just has to be
actors being mean,
crazy. Yeah,
happens,
like, you know,
in Los Angeles.
Yeah, like they're not mean to me, but they can just like do stuff that makes me nervous, and I'm like, oh my god, like, okay, did you make a buy? Like, I want to spend the least amount of time possible with them, because like they trigger the shit out of me, and I'm like, go away. I don't have that a lot, but when I do, I'm just like sweating, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so bad. I just want this to be over, but I'm just like, okay, let's do it.
And we didn't ask this yet. Did you ever like go to a doctor or like take specific medication at all?
Not yet, because for the past 4.5, 5 years, I was not on a health insurance plan. So I have just recently gotten my own health insurance plan, but now I have moved to California, so I have to re-sign up. So,
no.
Yeah. So, I really plan on, I don't know, I'm going to explore my options. I might go and try to talk to someone first, because I kind of like, I still experience anxiety, and I still experience this depression when I'm feeling low. And I don't know, I'm kind of over it, and I kind of want to get rid of it. Like, it's time. I'm an adult. I'm going to have my own health insurance when I fix it. And I'd like to take care of it. And I'd like to know what options are like best for me. My oldest sister ended up going on anxiety and depression medication. And she told me that for her, it helped her so much. Like, she had no problems getting out of bed in the morning. And I still experience that. And I was like, wow, really? Like, that's amazing. Like, and she, like, some people, it takes the right, there's different types of depression and anxiety medication. And sometimes it's like a Russian roulette. You have to find it might be bad for you, might be good for you. But luckily for her, the first ones that she got were good for her. So I'm hoping that when I take that journey, it like does the same, because it's a little scary, because I don't have time for downtime. So I'm like, oh my God, like, please, like, let whatever I pick work, because I have to be like, it's a lot of pressure as well in this industry, I will add, because I have to be put together all the time. So I'm like trying not to fall apart in front of people or let people see me fall apart. And that's like really important to me. I value my image of like, you know, just being like, yep, I'm okay, rather than people being like, mess, she's a mess.
Right. You definitely need to show up as a full professional if you're putting makeup on people's faces for like a high level production.
Yeah. You just have to be all smiles and be a good girl.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners kind of run the spectrum between like having taken medication before, or like know that they have something going on, whether it's depression or anxiety or both, but haven't like had the opportunity to like get help or something, and then some of them have, and some of them has found success and some not. Are there any like tips that you could give to those who haven't yet kind of started that journey that you were talking about?
Yeah, like it does take time, and like you, so you need to realize the path you need to take, and it's good to like listen to other people what they did, but don't feel like you have to do what they
Yeah.
have to do. Everyone's journey is so different, and my journey was like different than like people will probably tell me you should have gone to the doctor like years ago. Like I just didn't have health insurance. That wasn't the privilege I had, and also I just didn't have time. But for those people who are starting there, it like this podcast is for letting you know that this is it's normal. It's normal to feel that way. And you shouldn't be ashamed about it. And people that really care about you really want to hear how you're doing.
Yes,
and
they do. They really
yeah.
want to. All right, you listening, they actually do. Man.
They love you. People love special you. There's no one like you. So they want to hear how you're doing, and they want to help you.
Don't believe the lies.
Sometimes people
don't believe the lies that when you tell yourself that nobody cares and like these people don't actually care what I'm thinking. Instead of listening to yourself, you need to talk to yourself and tell yourself that no, that's not true, and actually go and do something about that.
Because it's really not. People love you so much, and they just want the best for you. And even if they don't know how to achieve that, they'll still try. But at the end of the day, it's you. You got to take that step forward. You got to be like, I got to go do this. I either got to go see a doctor about medication. I got to talk to a friend. I got to get an emotional support animal. Or, I got to go see a psychiatrist. I got to do something. You are the person that takes control of that. It's your life. You YOLO. You only live once, basically. And it's time to decide. Do you want to spend the next 80 years feeling this way, or do you want to figure it out and you want to have the best freaking time you can have?
Yeah, and everybody would recommend that the only way to solve that is by petting more dogs. So
I agree. I pet a dog every day out in LA. It's great, guys. There are so many dogs.
I try to fulfill a quota whenever like I'm out in a city. It's just like, all right, I gotta pet 3 dogs today. That's my goal. All right.
Just sitting there, like just thinking about dogs. Like they're so happy and so nice. It really does
all
help.
the dog Instagram accounts. I followed a retriever puppies account the other day. They post like 3 times a day, and it's my favorite thing. I do not regret it at all.
My 2 favorites are Cupcake the Pom. It's his Pomeranian. That's it's a
Cupcake.
Yeah. It's a football player's Pomeranian. And
what does that even mean? Oh, is a football player that owns the Pomeranian?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's Cheeky Cheese, and there's like 8. This woman she started off with 4 Chihuahuas. Now she has like 9. They're all so cute.
Oh man.
Whoa. Tyler, do you think this is a good segue into our final question?
I do, Laura. So formal.
That was such a sweet.
And now it's not a good segue, but all right.
I'm not a good segue artist.
Right, go ahead.
But that was such a sweet wrap up from you, Cass, with the kind of very authentic, relatable summation of I don't know, outreach. Did I just make, I don't know if I just made a sentence, but we always like to wrap the podcast up with, asking what you see as the most difficult, kind of the hardest, most negative part of dealing with grief, depression, anxiety, and then what the, sort of superpower of it all is, what you see as the worst and the best parts of those things.
I would say to start with the worst part of grieving and just getting that depression is just how fast it can change you. Like even like just the moment it happens and the moment like it's a downward spiral from there, you just like sorry, my country accent came out there for a second. I'm from North Carolina. Oh my God. Just losing yourself and like all that time, like even now I think back on, damn, I wasted so much time feeling this way when I could have like maybe gotten like, some sort of help, but it's that. And, just I feel really guilty when I think about the people I met when I was like that, because I'm like, they don't know me, and that makes me like feel frustrated because I want them to know me as me. So whenever I meet people from high school, they're like, oh, you're so like different now. You're like, I'm like, no shit, like my mom died.
Yeah.
This is the me that I wanted to be the entire time.
Yeah, but I couldn't be it. Feeling alone in that process of being depressed, especially when you're really young. But now we live in a better age where there are people all over the internet that can help you, and there's more ways to get help, and people are really adamant in showing that they care and they want to help you.
Yeah. And with my new startup, you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. The best thing, I will say, it gave me such a perspective on life. Death is a part of life, but just going from such a low point to a high point, it made me feel like I can now see, where I am in terms of how I feel and how I take things in, how I make friendships, how I treat people, especially with, how I view the world. Because, there's so many things going on every day, and someone could care the most about like, oh, I work in an office and my biggest obstacle is, like Julie's talking shit about me. Like, like
freaking Julie.
Like to me, I just don't care. I don't give a damn. Like, I'm just here to have a good time and be a good friend and just do the best that I can, because life can be taken away so easily. And, when you are depressed and you're like, why did I feel that way? Like, now that I know where I was and how I've like gotten away from it, like it's okay. Like it's people love you, and this is like, it's not an easy experience, life, but it's very interesting. And I think life itself is such an art. You get to like paint it however you want, and you're the person holding the paintbrush. So it's sometimes, it's not up to you. If you're like, if you have depression because of a chemical imbalance, then you might need the help of an extra hand help you paint your picture. But regardless, you want that picture to be finished. You don't want to end it and not get to finish your beautiful picture when it's time for you to go,
Yeah. And when you like look on those moments that you were like super depressed and you think, you know what, I didn't really do anything about that for months. I essentially wasted 3-4 months of my entire life. And you can look back on that and be like, oh crap, I don't want to do that ever again. And then it like kicks you in the butt to make you like, I'm going to live life to like its fullest and do the things that I actually want to do instead of like being sad about myself.
Yeah, because it's again, you learn lessons in life, and that's just a part of your life lessons. But like you learn about yourself, and because there's no guidebook, there's no way how to do anything, but like you learn from your own self experience. And I think that alone has helped me again tremendously in the way I live my life and how I take things a day at a time.
That's great. Well, all right. I think that's a wrap. Oh man, that was so good. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Cass. I really appreciate that. I'm sure that everybody listening to this can gain a lot from your unique perspective, because you had a lot of good things to say, and I like how we kind of ran the gamut.
Do you want to give us a little more information about how we can find you? You have
So I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. So my last name is Byers, Cassandra Byers, a lot like Byers from Stranger Things, spelled exactly the same way. Nice. I'm so privileged to have my last name in that show.
Dude, did you know one of our guests has the Twitter handle at Stranger Things?
No way.
Yeah, I totally forgot his name. Oh no. All right, cut this out. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, cut that part out.
Jessica's husband, Edward. Jessica's husband, Edward. His Twitter handle is at Stranger Things.
That's amazing.
Anyways, where else can we find you? What's your so at Cass? What's your Twitter handle?
On Twitter, you can follow me at byecas, so BYECAS, and on Instagram, I post all my work there, and I like to talk about makeup stuff, and maybe eventually I'll talk about some mental health stuff. But for now, it's mostly my makeup and me being fun. Byers Cast, BYERSCAS, and you can, find everything else from there. Like I have a website, I'm on Snapchat, but I love to talk to people. I will not sleep. I will respond to everybody.
Oh,
I love talking to people. So I'm like, if you have questions, I'll answer them, because I just appreciate it when people talk to me so much.
We're all desperate people on this podcast. We admit it. You can find Mr. Feels at Mr. Feels Podcast on Twitter, and go to patreon.com/Mr. Feels. We would really appreciate if you were to just throw us $1, $2, anything. To maybe help pay for our website hosting. We thank Kyle and Jen for continuing to be our great patrons. We've got a lot of good ideas over there if you want to check out the rewards. I won't go into all the details, but we do aim to donate a percentage of our earnings of Patreon to charities that support mental health and getting rid of the stigma and the troubles that come with mental illnesses. So if you want to help that and you think that that's a worthy cause and enjoy the show enough, you can do that at patreon.com/Mr. Feels. And one more plug, dude, go to iTunes, please. We have 0 reviews, and our friends Jordan and Jarvis just started a podcast, and they have more reviews than us, and we need to change that. So if your name is Jarvis or Jordan, give us a review. And if your name is anything else, also do that. We'll even review or we'll read your reviews on the show, because we can gain a lot of perspective from you as well as our guests. So we want to make sure that we're trying to get all the perspective that we can to help others best empathize with other people. So anything else, Laura?
We also have a Facebook page where you can comment.
Woo!
Yeah, and we can have more community-based discussions there and talk about topics. And we're posting new episodes and resources on there as well.
Yeah.
That's, I believe, facebook.com/Mr. Feels Podcast.
Yep, that's it. Oh man, I'm excited for that, because Laura's got friends that ask for that, and I'm like, oh, at least Laura's friends listen. No,
it's because they're all on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Our only patrons that are guests of the show. But that'll change, right? All right. Thank you for listening. This has been great. Thank you, Cass.
Thank you, Cass.
Thank you for having me, guys.
All right. We'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.